Monday. How is everyone? Jump on, say hi. Let me know where you're joining from. We always appreciate the call outs in the comments so that we know that everything's working and that you're excited to be here because we're excited to be here. It's a beautiful Monday here in Carolina. And I always look forward to this mix and match Monday where we get to focus on picking patterns from our paper stash and how to turn them into what we call a layout kit. So this is something that we have used over the last decade, more than the last decade, believe it or not. And it has transformed our scrapbooking. And so we want to share it with scrapbookers as many times as possible. This is why we kind of do a rinse and repeat, because practice makes perfect. There's two methods that we teach here at Kiwi Lane that have transformed our scrapbooking. The first one, the play to create method, utilizing the designer templates to help us to overcome creative blocks, right? Like staring at an empty page, figuring out what to layer together, and just allowing us to experiment and literally play with our design, which helps us get to just enjoying the creative process as a whole because we have a method that we can depend on. And what a difference that has made for myself and for thousands of scrapbookers. So that's the first method we teach. And the second method that we share is the paper picking method that has helped us to utilize all these beautiful pattern papers that we love as scrapbookers and that we often have a lot of. I'm talking to you. You guys tell me in the comments. Listen, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I completely get it as a scrapbooker myself, the love that we have for our paper and the need to want to use it, but sometimes feel overwhelmed with how to merge different patterns and colors together. And so you bring the paper, okay? You bring the paper. I'm assuming you have some in your stash, and we'll try to bring the clarity to help you to kind of build a format that you can depend on. Both of these methods, the play to create method and the paper picking method that we've shared here at Kiwi Lane for a decade and a half, because as scrapbookers ourselves, it really has transformed our scrapbooking. But both of those methods help you to use your paper stash in a meaningful way. And then when you take that paper, you merge it with your creativity in a confident way with your photos. Boy, is that package just a beautiful package, which is what scrapbooking is about, right? And so let's jump in and let's talk about this. Let's rinse and repeat, share it with your scrapbooking friends, because let's face it, I'm sure all of us have paper that we would love to use with confidence. And like I said, we want to bring clarity to how you can utilize that in the picking phase. And then of course, in our other videos where we talk about the play to create method, we take those selections and we transform our papers into pages. So we cut into those papers and we transform them into beautiful pages effortlessly. All right. So for today, I always think, how can I change this up a little bit? Because I know that a lot of you guys have heard this formula a few times, right? But within that, there's always things to kind of learn and dissect together. And of course, with that said, if you have questions, this is the time to ask them. Especially if you're joining me live, we will try to catch them and answer your questions that you might have. So don't be shy. Let us know if you have any questions or areas that you struggle. And if I'm not able to answer them, I know with no doubt that people from our community might also have some tips and suggestions that will hopefully bring clarity and direction to your question that you might have. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for saying hi. Sabrina, hello from Kentucky. I love it. Deborah from Louisiana. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully you're having a wonderful kick start to this week. We have a lot of fun things in the works for this week's, personally and for the community. I will say we did the PJ Playdate for Kiwi Club members. It's our online crop where we bring our pictures and our joy for scrapbooking, aka PJ. And it was just so much needed. I so much needed it. So it was really nice to spend a little time this weekend scrapbooking. And I hope if you haven't had a time for your own scrapbooking needs, that you find some time shortly. All right. All right. Trish says, hello from Africa. Hello, Trish. How are you? What time is it over there? Let us know. I'm so glad you're joining us. Well, okay. So like I said, bring your paper and your joy for scrapbooking. Let's get started. So we have broken this formula down in the last few months in a hopefully a more simpler way than before. We used to talk about 5 to 6 sheets of paper. All right. And within that being main sheets, supporting sheets, blenders, background sheets, various types of patterns that you're going to find in your stash. And the reason why we break it down to types of patterns is because you really need a mixture of what we refer to as main, supportings, and blenders. And so as you are able to start more easily see the difference in your own paper stash by these categories, you'll be able to select from each of those categories a few and then merge those together. So the reason I mention that is because, for example, main patterns, you really don't want multiple main patterns on a layout. You really just want one main pattern. So with that said, we've broken it down just a little bit clearer, hopefully. I think it is easier to remember, to a 3-2-1 formula. All right. Within that, let's start with number 3. And number 3, we need 3 patterns. Okay. One of them being a main pattern and the other 2 being supporting patterns. And so let's go ahead and take a peek down at this paper kit that I have available here. This is actually one of our Kiwi Club paper packs. So it's a little cheating, I'm not going to lie, compared to past videos we've done. Now, with that said, this is something we've shared, YouTube, various others, and we do this with different types and combinations of paper because we know how important that practice makes perfect. So really quickly, let's take a field trip before I jump in over to the website here at the community, because under Kiwi Lanes, right here, Kiwi Lanes paper picking method, okay, underneath the Inspire section, we have a whole section dedicated to this method. And you can see different events where we really break down not only the principles and the tips related to different ways that you can dissect this formula, but also the impact, how your paper changes everything on your layout. And it really does change it. And then, of course, with that, different options, whether it's a mixture of different brands of papers together, which is a scenario you might find, whether it's using a, a different paper brand like Echo Park or Simple Stories or what, all those papers we love and that are in our stash. We are not biased when it comes to paper here at Kiwi Lane. Cute paper is cute paper. We get it. You probably bought it because you were attracted to it. And either way, we want you to help you to use that and take it into what the paper was designed for. And the paper designed was not to sit in your stash. It was there to transform into layouts. So we want to help you do that confidently. Okay, so let's go back and it's 9:36 p.m. Oh, Trish. Well, hopefully you get a good night's sleep soon. Your day's almost over, but I love that you're with us. That's wonderful. All right. That's actually the best time of the day. I love that type of evening. Everything kind of quiets down. It's great. So, like I mentioned, this is a Kiwi Club paper pack, but even within our Kiwi Clubs, even though we do a lot of the heavy lifting, I talked about how you want to better refine being able to pull out main patterns from supporting patterns. That's the case even with Kiwi Clubs. All right. So let's start with the 3. I talked about a main and 2 supportings. The mains, right off the bat, let's see, right, are the busier patterns. They have more themes, right? This is things that we often talk about, where they're kind of the star of the show. They set the theme, they set the mood, and these are definitely busier designs. And they usually have several colors inside of them. You guys probably have a lot of main patterns in your stash. And the reason why is because we often buy main patterns because we're like, oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. And we're, we're like, ooh, that's a great baseball pattern. And so we buy based off of themes. Even though not all the time it has to be themed to do a baseball page, but that's another story for another day. Okay. But ultimately, that's usually the case. Okay. So, really quickly, I just kind of pulled them out and laid them out here. But I will say right off the bat, you got busier pattern. Yes. Okay. This is a busier pattern. It's floral. So it's kind of neutral in its approach, kind of universal. Flowers are something we find in the world and the earth around us. This is busier. This has a lot more details. So whether it's details or theme or busier, you get that. And then we also have this really cute tulip pattern here too. Okay. All right. So hopefully that stood out to you too. And so I'm just going to take those three and I'm going to move them over here. Those are our three main patterns inside of this paper collection. All right. And so just being able to look at patterns and be able to identify them, right? And be like, okay, these would qualify as main patterns, which leaves these ones as our supporting patterns. Supporting ones, just to go over that kind of definition again, you're looking for slightly more subtle designs. And they usually are geometric or stripes or plaids or polka dots, things like that, where also sometimes they have a pattern like this one, but this is what we refer to as two tones. And that helps you identify those types of patterns too, because you can see that it's a pattern. And with that, it has two tones, whites and blues, meaning the color palette that was used to create that pattern. Okay. So we call it a two-tone. This one actually technically, I mean, to get technical here, is a three-tone. It's got a darker blue, a lighter blue, and a white. So it has three tones. But either way, it's a pattern that has more than two tones to it and of different shades. And because of that, it can add a busier pattern, right? Busier mood to your layout. But if I was going to break these apart, that's kind of how I would do it. So let's go ahead and do that really fast. So we got our mains, supportings, which leaves us with our third category of patterns that we're looking for in our stash that we talk about, which is blenders. All right. Blenders, or even sometimes they are two tones, like I just defined, meaning like this is a blue. Oh, it's kind of hard to see. It's just the light with the white and the sun coming through. It's like a blue with the white background. It's got a little hashes. Okay. Blenders are where you got the two shades. Okay. You got blue with blue, but they blend. They just kind of give your patterns a texture, right? Let's see. Good. Okay. They give it a texture, which I think really adds to the quality of your layout, because every good layout has a great foundation to work on. And so that's why we often mention blenders for the space of backgrounds. But we'll get to that. All right. And I think, honestly, I think what happened in the scrapbooking industry is the paper companies went a lot this direction, main patterns and eye candy, right? All of this eye candy. And yet then, unfortunately, you get these collections, you're like, but how do I use these all together, right? All these patterns together without overwhelming my pictures. Well, then I think that's where a lot of, of course, our cardstock came in handy. And well, before that, we were just using cardstock, and then we went to pattern paper, but then we had to kind of pull in our cardstock. But I really love a true blender in preference of the cardstock when and where it applies. Like I said, because it just really enhances the page, and it just takes it from always like a white background to something just a little bit more moody or aesthetic to what you're scrapbooking. So I love blenders. They're great to have. And if you don't know this already, in our shop, we did release for a limited time our background. Let me pull one out here. Our background paper packs, because of this need that you guys so desperately noticed yourself. And completely, as a scrapbooker, I agree with you. So Those are available in the shop for those. Okay, so I made 3 piles because even though I'm pulling this from a Kiwi Club, I really want to express how valuable it is to be able to first identify the variations of patterns that will exist in your paper stash. All right. Now, of course, you'll have a cardstock pile, most likely too. We all have cardstock, and so that is kind of solids, right? That's how you would identify that, solids. So you got main patterns, supportings, blenders, solids. Those are usually how you can define papers into different categories. All right. So now once you kind of better train your eyes to see the different papers and what kind of qualifies each of those patterns at different things, that's where you can start going and selecting. And then we can use the 3-2-1 formula to build a layout kit. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a 3, and the 3, we need 3 patterns, 1 being a main and 2 supportings. So for the most part, we throw in that second supporting because it's just good to have the option, because you never know how much layering or variations of like things that you might want to do when you actually start creating your layout, designing it. And let's just be honest, this 5 to 6 sheets of paper we recommend, you always have enough to do another page with, usually 3 or 4 cards with. It's your papers, you're not going to use all of that paper on a 2-page layout. Never have I ever used all my paper on a 2-page layout. But it's nice to have this gathered before you sit down to scrapbook, because it makes a huge difference instead of you spending your quality creative time doing the searching and digging through your stash. So when you have moments where you can put together a few layout kits, it really helps just bring a lot more joy into when you actually sit down to scrapbook. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take, well, any one of these will work because it's a Kiwi Club, but I'm going to go with it. You know what? I'm going to take the green one because these other ones work really great with every single one of them, but I want to kind of show variations of this green one. So let's take 1 main pattern. And like I said, we want to combine that with a supporting. And so what I do is I layer these with the main pattern. Okay. And this is really kind of a preference, but this is my approach every single time. And if you watch any of our past mixing and matching paper picking videos, you'll see us on the floor at the paper scrapbooking store doing the same thing. So when you sit down and you're pulling out your stash and you got your supportings in one pile and your mains in another pile and your blenders in another pile, you want to take one main pattern and then start finding some supporting patterns with it. All right. Now, like I said, it's kind of an outlier because these Kiwi Clubs, they already were designed to be beautiful layered together. But just looking at the exercise as a whole, okay, this is how I would recommend you approach it. Now, so for me, instantly, this pattern feels a lot more complementary to this pattern than the plaid. Now, this other plaid is going to look really great with these other ones, but for the most part, if I was selecting a supporting for this one, I would lean towards the stripe more, okay? And then even you could go this approach. Look how instantly the mood changes. It really does change that mood. So your supporting helps cement the mood. Your theme is going to give your page the direction as your main pattern, but that supporting is really going to capture that aestheticness of how you want to spin that main pattern. All right. And honestly, you'll probably find lots and lots of options when it comes to supporting, and you might feel a little decision fatigue because of that. If that's the case and you find yourself kind of spinning in the decision fatigue, I would honestly say if you're humming and hawing over variations, then flip a coin. Flip a coin. And I say that wholeheartedly because I just don't believe there's any wrong way for the most part. If you're really torn between 2 options, then option A or option B, but either one is going to turn out great because you're so torn. If you're like instantly know, like for me, if I was looking at this, how I feel today, I would be like, wow, that's beautiful. I want to see what I can transform this into. I want to see this come to life on my page. And so for me, I would probably look into that. Okay. Now, I did mention we broke it down to a 3-2-1, and we threw in this extra supporting because of layering options. You may use it, you may not. Honestly, if you're following the play to create method in the second phase and you do that, we often talk about how wonderful it is to have layering options as you use the designer templates to try even within the templates to mix and match. We're doing mix and match in our paper, but even in the templates, we love to mix and match. And the reason why is because mixing and matching in general, and you lean into that exploration of mixing and matching of anything, that's really where you spark your creativity. Creativity is very much a combining of different elements in a variety of different ways, and then building your own basically combination. And so you're going to be that creative. Our creativity doesn't just exist in the designing. It starts from step one, which is picking paper, picking our pictures. So really learning and enjoying each of those steps in the process, and reminding yourself that you can have fun in these step process. Like, this should be fun. This should not be daunting. If you need to put on some fun music or something to kind of lighten the mood, do it, because we should have fun in the whole process steps, not just in one of the processes steps. It's all part of the package of this beautiful hobby. But with that said, a little bit of framework, a little bit of practical tips, and a little bit of help and assistance in some areas, which we're here at Kiwi Lane to do all the above, is super helpful. All right. Now let's go to 3, 2, 1. We would definitely want to throw in backgrounds, and that's where your 2 comes into play. This is where the blenders pile comes into play. So looking through your blenders, you'll want to pick a background, and that will be your space holder for the 2. If you're not doing a 2-page layout and you're not a 2-page layout scrapbooker, that's okay. Then your formula might consist of actually, you probably even need less. You'd be what did we decide? A 2-1-1 would be your call, your 2-1-1 call. Okay. You'd pick 2 patterns, 1 background sheet, and 1 extra just in case you need it for something. All right. All right. Now going back to the 2 here, listen, that background page makes a difference. The foundation you build on makes a difference with mood, aesthetics, all the above that we talked about. So you can see here, again, we're going to layer. We're going to layer, we're going to mix, we're going to match all the above in phase 1, just like when we get to designing phase, we'll mix and match and layer and all that stuff too. But here we're going to start with our paper. Layer it, lay them on top, guys. Like, do something like this. This is how I approach it usually. And I love how this is popping, actually. That's really pretty. I've used this kit before, and I will say this new combination, I'm seeing it different with different lights. Personally, I probably wouldn't do this because my main is green. And so I'm like, oh, I don't know if I would go that direction. It would pull too much in. That's really pretty. It softens it. But I also don't know if I would pick that background because this main doesn't hold a lot of that pink specifically. So I don't know if that's doing anything for this page. Ooh, that's very pretty. I like that blue too, that shade of blue. Even 1 step down on that shade changes that. And or you can go kind of like a light, kind of airy vibe. Personally, I love that. I love how it accentuates my supportings that I picked. I love how it accentuates the main pattern that I picked. And so for me, this is really starting to pull together that layout kit combination of 5 to 6 sheets of paper. Now, we say 5 to 6 sheets of paper because honestly, with a good quality of 5, with them also being double-sided for the most part, you really can lean in and create a beautiful page with this combination, with the category of mains, with the category of supportings, and with the category of blenders all being represented. And I think that's key, making sure all of those categories are represented in your selections. And that's really what I wanted to focus on today's mix and match, is really not necessarily about our selections as much as we have in the past events for this one, but more about really being willing to look at the patterns within our paper stash and being able to identify a pattern when you first see it. Okay. Then, of course, you can finish the formula. And then I would probably throw in, say, this extra as the 1. So 3, 2, 1, simply because, like I told you, it's nice just to have it already kind of pulled together. When you get to designing, you may use it, you may not use it. You may use it to map pictures. This could be a cardstock. This is where the number 1, that extra 1 sheet to complete your 3, 2, 1 formula, is a great place actually to pull in cardstock. Has something that coordinates, that you might want to, like I said, match or line something or give it a little bit more contrast. I love that's where cardstocks, for me personally, I really love that's where it really helps enhance and elevate your pages in that manner, where it kind of backs something or mats something that you're designing on your page of your layout. But when it comes to the foundations, I love a good blender, because your foundation is the place where your page starts. And so making sure you pick a strong foundation really plays a huge effect on your overall layout. Okay. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Within the 3, 2, 1, we have main patterns, supporting patterns, blenders. Those are the different types of patterns we're going to see inside of our selection. And those are things to kind of continue to refine. And also, like I said, practice makes perfect. It really does. But hopefully, like I said, this clarity of this paper picking method that we would love to share with all scrapbookers. Why? Because it's so fulfilling to use your paper stash, but it's more fulfilling, even more fulfilling, to see these papers being used, being cut into, so that we can leave behind, beautiful pages. And with that, be able to spend our time really creating those beautiful pages from our supplies that we have. So definitely leaving behind those beautiful pages and letting the paper really, be used for what it was made for. And that was to be transformed into beautiful pages, so that we can leave behind beautiful pages and not piles and piles of paper stash. Okay, guys. So let's work on that. Let's get our paper stash to use. Like I said, hopefully you bring the paper, hopefully a little bit of this clarity. We'll bring that, and we're here to help support you in that goal, because it's a beautiful goal to have. And we know how rewarding it is. On top of that, we also know how rewarding it is to play to create and simplify your process, so that the time that you do sit down, you pull your layout kit together, you pull some basic tools, and you just kind of jump in and you start to explore the creative process as you play to create and transform paper and pictures. I mean, it's such a simple thing. It really is so crazy how simple it is. We're talking paper and pictures, and you get this beautiful outcome and a beautiful hobby. I mean, scrapbooking is amazing, guys. It really is. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your week. And I guess my challenge every time I do one of these events is, you know what? Let's keep it simple. I hope that sometime this week, okay, within the next 7 days before our next Monday, put together 2 layout kits. Don't throw all of your paper stash on your table and like all of that. Just put 2 layout paper kits together from your stash. And when you get it done, stick it either in a bag. There's lots of options. Listen, I don't mind which way you go. You could do, I had one right here. Oh, you can stick it back in your little bag for your thing you got. So when I get a 6-pack together like this, I'll stick it in its own little bag. All right. If you don't have those bags, you can do a 12 by 12 page protector. So this is like one of your album's page protectors, or you could do one of the Totally Tiffany elements too. I think I have those over here. Ugh. Yeah, I have another pack in one of those. So these are really great. And I have these amazing go-to layout kits. And in this case, I already have my pictures ready too. So whenever I'm in wanting, I was going to say wanting, but in need, because sometimes scrapbooking, like I need to scrapbook. I need to scrapbook because I need that revitalization that this beautiful hobby brings. But when I need to scrapbook and want to scrapbook, it's so nice to have these ready and already kitted so that I can just grab one of those and get kind of to that creative process that we all enjoy. It's really is a fun part. But we can also find joy and have fun in the other steps of the process too, picking paper and other things. So, all right, guys. Well, let me see. Janet says, what is the base of these in the base of the page? Also, what does the crown and number 1 and number 2 mean?
I'm not sure.
What is the base of these in the base of the page? Also, what is the crown? I'm not quite sure what that means, Janet.
Yeah, I'll have to watch the replay.
I'll clarify your question. Maybe I'm just not quite getting to the same page as you, but let me know in the comments and we'll see if we can clarify that. Just started watching. I will watch the replay. Perfect, Lori. Yes, catch it. And like I said, we have tons more on this topic that really kind of readdress the formula, but with new examples because it is a practice and practice makes perfect, so to speak. And the more often you dig through your paper stash, like I said, to identify mains, to identify supportings, and just get more comfortable with that, the easier it becomes to pull the different types of patterns together and start using your stash more effortlessly in that manner. All right. I will kiss the baby, Lisa. The baby's not here right now. He went on a trip with his ma, and I am a little, sad.
Withdrawal.
Going through withdrawals. No, I think they actually get home this evening. So I got a lot done though, because I get so distracted by him, but it's worth it. Yes. So whatever way to help you to keep those together, I just know that we have page protectors. Most of us have page protectors. So that's why I mentioned this. You could stick them straight into a page protector and store it that way. Otherwise, I get these bags and we share that inside of those other articles that we have. Let me just grab one. You could pick these up on Amazon for like 100 little 13 by 13 bags. So I always like to mention that. But I also like to mention Totally Tiffany organizers because like they are on point when it comes to being truly organized in that manner. But organization is a preference. And so that's why I give variations and almost levels of those variations. For me, I do all three. I don't know why. I just do. I do all three. It just depends on the day, I guess. Okay, sorry. In the kit, which ones are the base page of the page?
Are we talking about the background sheets?
Yeah, the background sheets. Is that what you're talking about, Janet? So the background sheets in the Kiwi Club kits, like I said, that's kind of this one's a little easier because I am using one of the Kiwi Club kits that were already designed with this in mind. But if you're talking about Kiwi Club kits, let's go to down view. I'll explain that really quickly for clarity's sake. Well, if I was pulling out this kit and a club kit, you'll see that the backgrounds in each of our kits, they have 2 of each. So you have 2 blues, 2 whites, 2 greens. But in regards to identifying patterns, I was just using these as examples. You'll want to look for patterns that are defined as blenders. And those are the 2 tones that I talked about. Okay. But as far as which are the base inside of a kit, you can usually identify the bases of a kit because we make sure to include 2 of each one. And we do that, you get 2 of the same pattern because then you don't have to buy like 3 kits, 4 kits, whatever it is, sometimes with other lines. It drove me crazy. I'm not going to lie. So we made sure that our kit specifically related to Kiwi Lane's paper kits, we already include those. Like I said, if you're a 1-pager, you got variations of options there. And of course, everything is beautifully two-sided with the formula we taught in mind. But I really specifically wanted to use these examples as things to look for and identify inside of your own paper stash as well. All right. So think hopefully those refreshers and reminders and examples on what is a pattern, what is a supporting, what is a blender, and then also just hopefully seeing this again. If you haven't had a chance to just dig through your own stash and put together, like I said, take the challenge this week and put together just 2 of these layout paper packs. Consist of 6 sheets, okay? Put them together so that the next time you go to a crop, you can just grab one of these paper kits, find some pictures to go with it, and then you have basically the supplies you need: paper, pictures, tools, and then you're ready to play to create. And that's the difference that it makes, is that you have these easy, accessible layout paper kits put together already from your paper stash. And then slowly but surely, it's little by little, you'll start to see you using up that paper stash because you have a system, a method, and a game plan on how to use it. And that makes such a huge difference. All right. And overall, just enjoying the hobby more freely as well. All right. All right. Sabrina says, I have a large paper stash after inheriting paper from a friend. Yes, Sabrina. So you got some work to do. And like I said, it's just little by little. So little by little. But if there is a piece of paper that you are just like your heartstrings, it's pulling on your heartstrings every time you see it, I will just say this, like, go pull it out of your stash, build a kit, put some papers with it if you haven't already, and scrapbook with it tomorrow, this week. Like, don't put it off any longer. If there is a paper that you just like, oh, I still love this paper, and afraid to cut in it, or anything, or not sure what to scrapbook it, just like make it a goal to use that paper, because I really believe that it will just bring you so much joy. And why put off tomorrow what's going to make you happy today? So if that paper is calling your name, let's put it to use. Let's pull it out. Let's use it. And whatever page or memories that you add and combine with that paper, it was meant to be. And it's better being used than being stored, not fully being appreciated. So combine it with some other supporting patterns, pull it together with some blenders, and see where that creative process takes you, because it's a fun ride. So take the ride and see where it goes. All right, guys. All right, Sabrina, I'm so glad that you have used it. Good. Awesome. That's a big goal. Your son's album. That's awesome. Gail says, do you know how many times I repeat the 3, 2, 1 while I'm pulling paper together for a page? I probably sound crazy, but it helps. Yeah. Keep the beat. 3, 2, 1. Keep the focus is really what it is. I get it. I get it. So like I said, it's good to have a formula and we all need kind of side rails sometimes, something to help us to stay aligned and focused on our objectives. So hopefully, like I said, if it's whether helping you to organize your paper in a more realistic way to help you to be able to pull on that quicker and faster when you go to a crop or other things, or whether it's helping you to use that one sheet of paper that you're not quite sure what to mix it with, then that's a benefit too. But ultimately, let's also just utilize the paper stash that we love so much and create some beautiful pages together. So I can't wait to see and hear more about your process. And of course, we're here to help and be any support that we can along the way. All right. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining me this Monday. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you guys in the community at the next event. All right. Take care. Bye, guys.